Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron, Patrick, and Johann Gary. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Good morning, that'll be me. I'm doing the intro today. Christ. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Accountant. My name's Johann Gory, and we are coming to you live on all of our favourite social media platforms at 8:30 on a Monday morning. And joining me, as ever, is Mr. QuickBooks chap himself, Aaron Patrick. Good morning, Aaron. How are you?
Good morning, good morning. For anyone who doesn't know, there's no feature in StreamYard now, so we get to even say QuickBooks chap here. Although, John, I've asked you a few times to update yours. I'm excited to see what you're going to put on there. So yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we get to see that next week. So, but good luck.
Lack of imagination.
The client engager guy. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
The amount of videos I'm doing at the moment for them, yeah. So, but yeah, Aaron, how was your week?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. Thank you very much. It's busy. So I keep telling everyone that when's January going to finish, because I'm still excited to know when that's actually, we're going to finally get to the end of January, because it feels, and I don't know if anyone else is like this, let us know in the comments section, but it feels like we're still in January. That's my personal take on it all at the moment. And I think Paul smashed it though, Lego Guru. I think that's what we should be calling him going forward. So. But yeah, it's mental, absolutely mental. Good way. There's a lot of good, exciting things happening. So we can't complain. But yeah, it's be nice to just have a bit of a chill time, I think, at some point.
Yeah, I know. I'm exactly the same. Like everyone's from like November, everyone says, "Look, I know you're going to be busy for the next couple of months. Let's get something in the diary for February." And you go, yeah, no problems. You get to February and you open your diary and just go, oh, crap. Shouldn't have done that. And then you're here, there and everywhere. You've not, because it's like, oh, that's in 2 months' time. It'll be fine. Yeah, just stick it in the diary. Then you realize that, right, I need to be here. Then I've got 15 minutes to get there. And then I've got to go and get there. And you're like, yeah, normally this would be better planned.
Exactly.
And then we've always got the joys of Calendly, haven't we? So these meetings just ta-da! It's like
out of nowhere. Yeah, because we were at QuickBooks, weren't we, last week or week before, whenever it was? So like again, the weeks are just flying by.
A week before,
crazy, isn't it? And it was like the same question kept popping up of all the guys there, like, oh, I'm glad you're out of January now. We can put some time in your diary, and all the vendors are the same now, aren't they? They've all kind of woken from their slumber and like, actually, we can talk to accountants again. So yeah, that's where the calendar invites are coming from, not just from clients, but you've got vendors and stuff wanting to show you something or talk to you about something or whatever it's going to be. So, nice.
Yeah, tell me about it. I think if we had QuickBooks is obviously always in the diary. Dexter been in my diary. KPM wants to get into my diary. Like it's busy. Which is nice. It's nice to be wanted, shall we say, and stuff. But yeah, it makes February just as bad as January, but unknown and it's kind of disguised to the rest of the world. But yeah, so yeah, that my week's exactly the same. Not just busy at the moment. And then see what the next few weeks have got to hold. But again, busy. I think.
That's it, isn't it?
So yeah. Right. Let's have a look at who's joining us this morning. So Paul has already said good morning. Ashley has said good morning, gents. Happy Monday. Yep. You know the week started when we're talking to you through social media channels. We've got Merlin saying good morning, everyone, and Mary is saying good morning. So loads of people commenting and saying good morning. Lovely for you to all join us live while we are talking and rambling around random stuff. So, Aaron, what are we talking about today?
Well, I thought you were doing it this week, but don't worry. We've
I can go with it. I mean, I just
got conference season starting, so we're going to be talking about how to prepare yourself for conference season. We've got what to look forward to in your or what you should be taking to conference as well, because we're going to do a little. We've stole it off other influencers, quote unquote, in the world, or other social media content, and we've doing what's in our bag. So yeah. What exciting items can we find in our bag today? And then also we're going to also cover the Accountant Excellence Awards and just give us a bit of feedback,
yes,
as that's been announced as well. So yeah, it'll be a bit of a slow news week, but that's not a problem. It means we can talk about some stuff that's actually a little bit more exciting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, something that impacts the majority of us, shall we say? So let's get started with that first bit of it. And the only really important bit of news that's not repurposed news from the last few weeks, and that is the launch of the Accounting Excellence Awards. I was at the live event last year. It was an interesting event because it was on the day that the Queen passed away. So there's a lot of speculation: don't we do it? How do we do this respectfully, etc. But it was a very good night, very dignified, and very respectfully done. But it was I felt kind of short. There wasn't a huge amount of awards, but it was a really good night to be down in London and celebrating the success of all these different firms. And there's new awards this year, and there's actually a focus has been removed from software providers, and it is really focused this year on accounting firms and individuals and recognizing their work within the industry, basically. It's fantastic. Like software providers, it can get all a bit political and who's paying the big sponsorship checks and who's not. But yeah, to see the Accounting Web Awards focused on firm owners, firms, team members, I think is fantastic. So the nominations are open, and you've got until April to nominate yourself. Now, historically, they normally extend that by a couple of weeks, but show willing and get them in first thing. It's always a good idea. But they're not simple nominations, are they, Aaron? Like, you've got to put some real effort into these things to just even to be put onto the pile to be considered for shortlisting. They are some essay-worthy applications required to justify why you're applying for these things. Have you ever applied for any of these type of awards?
Yeah, so I think naively at first, going into this blind and everything else a few years back, I always thought that these award ceremonies was just, you were just nominated by someone else, or you were just spotted like a talent scout. Like you think about it like a football game, don't you? Like, oh, one day I'm going to get spotted by Man United sort of idea, and one day Accounting Excellence is just going to spot you while you're filling a tax return one day. But no, it is very much a case of getting those nominations in. And yeah, you're right. Like, I think the only way you'd probably be able to do this is having a dedicated team who just spends their time filling out these nominations. But it's right to do that, because I think one thing I would say about the industry, if you kind of look back over it, like you were saying there about it was a bit short last year, which I imagine is a lot of circumstances, COVID probably being one of them, and everything else that's with it. But you think of how far the industry's come. Like, there are some absolute superstars in the area at the moment doing some brilliant things. And not necessarily the ones who are shouting the most on LinkedIn or socials or anything else, but I'm privileged enough being part of the Small Practice Commission at ICAW to see like what small practices are doing and what accounting firms are doing at the moment in time. So there are some people who need to be shouted about, need to be acknowledged, because the more we praise them and show them, is more opportunities we have to learn from them and understand what they're doing, and find ways in which we can push our industry. So yeah, I actually think now would be a really hard job to be one of the judges this time around. I think there's going to be so much good like applications going forward. So yeah, making the applications as tricky as they are is probably the right thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say that there's so complex and in detail that actually it's not something one of your clients will just willingly nominate you for, because there's so much time investment required. So it is a self-nomination thing. But it's one of the things I walked away with from the awards ceremony last year was seeing what those other firms were doing and just thinking, how can I take that and put that into my firm? You know, how can I do that in our way? It's a really good learning opportunity. So even if you don't nominate yourself and you're not lucky enough to be sat on a software provider's table like I was last year, read up about it, watch the outcomes and see what the awards were nominated for and why. You know, every award winner was there was a guy announcing why the judges had picked each thing. And that was really insightful. Like I walked away with some ideas of what we can do to improve things, to be trying to head in the right direction for them. So yeah, definitely worthwhile insights to be had from winners of the Accounting Excellence Awards.
Yeah, it was interesting that you mentioned there was new awards, and I agree. There's some really good new awards there. But I do think my only criticism, they could have gone further. Like, you know, I'm not. I wouldn't say this is a show that should be nominated, but there's nowhere to put something like Ask the Accountant or any of the other podcasts out there. And I think maybe that's where they could just take it one step further next time. I know it's probably, I can imagine internally they probably had a conversation about, do they want it to go down that route? You know, is that too quote unquote mainstream or too, do you know what I mean? There might be some sort of political reason why they've chosen not to go down that route. But I think, again, let's take this out of the equation. But there's some really good like social podcasts and all that sort of stuff that's come out, you know, the Digital Cruel World and all those people, you know, they some sort of recognition would probably be nice to kind of push that route as well. But yeah, I mean, fair enough. Like I understand why they probably didn't want to include it as well, but it'd be just nice to give some recognition for that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, as you say, like there is a new category for best internal marketing team.
Yeah,
it's like, well, only the big boys have got an internal marketing team. But whereas if they actually looked at it and went with the guys at Digital Tools in a Cruel World and all these other fantastic podcasts, YouTube channels, promoting actually the excitement in the industry to attract people into it, I think would be a really good awards category to have, because they are adding value to the industry as a whole. Whereas it is more of a traditional category still of best tax provider, best software, not best software, best payroll team, best bookkeeping team. And that's all great, but it's 2023. Let's have a wider scope on it, maybe. So yeah, learning opportunities still to be had from what makes them the best payroll team. What can we learn from them, and what has been judged as award winning to take back and put into our practice?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely worthwhile paying attention and taking those insights as you get them, basically.
Should they live stream the event or something, isn't it? Because I think that would be quite
be quite good.
Paid for ticketed event or however they want to do it. But yeah, it would be cool if they could go down that sort of route. So. But yeah,
or even just record it so that there's a feed to watch afterwards, so the wider audience can see it. So yeah, there you go, Accountancy Excellence Awards. If any of those ideas are worthy of contribution of the year, then just let us know.
Yeah, and we may be able to put you in touch with a great videographer as well that we both mutually know. Johann. So yeah, if you need someone to do that live bit, we've got that covered as well.
Yeah, I think we've got enough mics.
Yeah. Oh, we're doing it now, are we?
But yeah, so that's the real news topic. But the topic we've been discussing for the last couple of days, Aaron, is the fact that QuickBooks Connect is just what have you done? You've hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Just smashing up your office. So QuickBooks Connect is on the 7th of March.
Yes.
in London, and obviously we've been prepping our presentations for that event. We've got deadlines to get the presentations into QuickBooks for them to be reviewed and assessed by the legal team, the technical team, to make sure they're going to work and all that good stuff. But because of that, it's kind of got us excited. It's got us thinking, hasn't it, that QuickBooks Connect really marks the start of the conference season for accountants and bookkeepers. It's the first one in the year, and that's the accounting season now running until November, when we have is it November or is it October this year? Accounting Web Live.
November, isn't it?
Yeah. So, we've got these events for the next 9 months, and that's fantastic. It's really exciting. But I still think a lot of people sit there and wonder why bother? Where's the value to us? Is it really worth it? I can't just watch it on live stream or something. That would be easier. And I know a lot of our sessions are being recorded at QuickBooks Connect, and whenever you go to any of these conferences, there's film crews everywhere filming all the sessions they can. But we just thought it'd be good to have a chat today about why we go to all these conferences, other than the fact that my team just like me out of the office, so I'm not interfering with anything and causing headaches. They want to know, everyone else kind of wants to know what's the point, other than a bit of a jolly, which it seems to be at times. So yes, Aaron, what are your main reasons for attending as many conferences as you can?
Yeah, for me, it's that network point that's always been my most impactful part from it. It was interesting you just said that about people saying how they don't really understand why people go to it. We had that very question. We were in a part of a group last week about small practices and how they're just giving some tips and tricks to one another. And one of the questions popped up was like, why should I bother going to these events? And it is, especially if you're first starting out, or if you've got kind of you're still trying to find your feet, then these events are so impactful for you, even if it's just to find like vendors that you could work with going forward. I know you're a huge advocate for practice management from day one, being one of those things. If you go back to our first ever, we have cool friends, and Chris, that was his final bit of advice to everyone, isn't it? So just having the opportunity to walk around the show floor and talk to people about at least a practice management solution, looking at what other solutions you could look at to maybe sort whatever headache you've got. I mean, that's what I found from day one was my most impactful part. And that's where I spent most of my time and my energy at to begin with, was just talking to the vendors, trying to get myself in front of them, trying to understand a bit more, maybe learn a bit more about what they've got on their roadmap, them sort of questions and items that you're not going to get just from looking at their website or from a quick sales call from them. So having those opportunities was my first and foremost, first priority. But then going after that, it was networking with everyone else that's there and having the opportunities to get to know some of the speakers and understand how they got in the position to speak at these events. And those sort of event parts was for me personally where I've been able to build my network up and have an opportunity to understand who I could lean on if I have a problem in X or Y or whatever it's going to be. And I think that's been really important. But for anyone who's kind of a little bit maybe nervous or a bit kind of thinking about what to do with them, just go down those lists, especially with QuickBooks. They've made it so simple to see what's being talked about at the event. And QuickBooks is a bit of a different one, because what I definitely find with QuickBooks Connect is they almost force you in, or not force you, but they very much encourage you to go to some of the breakout sessions. So the talking events is something that can sometimes get kind of missed when it comes to these conferences, where me and you've done it before, where we've walked around the whole floor for the whole time and we've not gone and sat down to any of the chats because we've just not had time. We've just been too busy talking to everyone else and going around the floor and everything else. Whereas when we have the opportunity to kind of sit down and go in front of one of the speakers and listen to one of the things that have been taught, we can learn so much out of there. And I know you've got a great story of one of your employees who came with you to one of them and learned so much just by sitting down at and trying to just sponge and learn everything from every part of the conversations that were going on. And that's where QuickBooks Connect is quite a nice one to start with, because it forces you that those breakout rooms are pretty much compulsory to go to. Like, the whole point is that you pick what you're going to see in your next breakout room and you go to them, and then you wait till your next breakout and you go to the next one. And in between there's a bit of networking, but it is encouraged that you go to these talks. So I think that for me is a great starting point, because it'll in one event, you're going to get to know the whole aspect of what it is like to go to these events. You're going to understand the importance of sitting down at a breakout room and talking and listening to the items. You're going to understand the importance of doing networking, because that's going to be a place where, between those breakout sessions, you're going to learn about how everyone else is maybe doing whatever they've been talked about at the breakout. And then at the end, we're going to have that, that festival, or I think they call it Connect Fest, isn't it? So there'll be a chance for us to, wind down a little bit and actually talk about what it is we need to talk about. It's amazing, those events. I always remember when, like, I first heard about an after party at an accountancy conference. That's going to be a bit rubbish, isn't it? But actually, they're so important to building that network and understanding. This podcast wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those events. It's as simple as that. Like, that's how you make those connections and those networks and everything else. And I think it's really important. So yeah, I think ultimately for me, like, you start off trying to talk to vendors and everything, but you have an opportunity just to try all those aspects of a thing and find out what works for you. Because especially when you look at Accountex and everything else, it's such a vast conference that you wouldn't be able to do all 100% of it. You're not going to be able to complete it. So you just need to find confidence and feel comfortable in what it is that you're going to get the most out of it. But there's literally something for everyone that I found. So yeah. What about you, Johann? What's your big tips? And
as you say, like, when you go to these things, you need to go with a plan and you need to know what you're trying to get out of it. Are you trying to build networks with fellow accountants, at which point the coffee stop is where to be? Are you trying to network with software providers? If that's the case, then great. That's where you need to go and talk to the networks, and that's how your software providers, that's how you want to spend your time. If you're there to learn, then you need to go to your breakout rooms and you listen to all the fantastic speakers. But it's very much about planning ahead, not military precision, but just a general feel of the topic. Am I going to this event to learn, to network with my peers, or to build relationships with my software providers? And that will give you the best ability to get the best value out of the day or 2 days that you're going to be there for. As you said, like, take your team. Like, I took a team member to Accountex North last year. It was his first ever accounting event. He'd only been in accounting industry less than 6 months, and he just walked away grinning, like, eyes wide open. He'd met software providers. He'd been to several breakout sessions. Like, he had the time of his life. He absolutely loved it, and the value he got out of it was incredible. So take your team. They're going to love the event, and they love you for taking them. It's definitely a worthwhile thing to do. And then when you've got, if it's just you going, as I say, just work out what you want from it. Like, a lot of people disappear at 5 o'clock and that's it. The day's done. Well, if I did that, we wouldn't be doing this podcast now. This podcast came off the back of us in a bar having a chat about various opinions and stuff. And it was decided this should be something we do. If we are, if you want to be doing better with your software providers and have a better relationship, like, I get asked a lot, like, how come you're on every webinar and stuff like that? So like this week, next week, I'm on the webinar with Zama Technology and stuff. It's because I don't sit there waiting for my account manager to call me. I call them. I go up and see them and reintroduce myself at every conference. What's new? What's coming? I'm having this challenge. I'm having that challenge. How can we overcome this? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? And it's a proactive and productive relationship that I hold with each software provider we use. And that's what leads to opportunities. Is they understand you value their product, and they want to value you and your relationship with them by giving you opportunities to speak on their webinars and to be seen with them, with their softwares. You know, a lot of people sit and whinge, or I never hear from my software. When did you last try and call your software providers? When did you last have that open dialogue? And it's not a one-sided thing. You need to have that backwards and forwards, and you need to initiate that conversation at times. Because software providers aren't psychic like us. We don't know when our clients are having a challenging time unless they tell us. Software providers don't know you're struggling with their software unless you tell them. They don't know what your frustrations are with their software unless you tell them. Now, some software providers won't take that on board and they won't action anything. They'll just give you the sales speak. But others will take that on and genuinely action it and deliver outcomes. And you'll go, wow, they actually listened. That's incredible. Now, that can be achieved at the stand on the day, but it's even more likely to be achieved, and you go even more in depth with that problem and working out a solution with that software provider in a much more positive manner as well at the end of a bar over a pint. Like, it is, yeah, these conferences are a huge opportunity, and everything I do today in the form of webinars, speaking at events, podcasts, etc., is all off the back of me going to conferences. If I didn't go to the conferences over the last few years, none of this would be happening right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Johann, are you there, or is it me? Oh, it's Johann. Okay. I don't know where he's gone, but he was making at least he got to the end of his point, which I think is the most important thing. Let's bring in some people who are chatting while Johann gets his system back up and running again, just making sure it is definitely Johann that's broken. All right, so Kirsty's there. Morning all. Morning, Kirsty. How are you doing? And then we've got Kirsty also talking about that it's good. It's good to get why I wish I could get feedback from the ICB Lucer Award. Went up twice, very happy to be shortlisted, but would like to know how to improve. Yeah, I think that's a great point, and that's back to the Accountants Excellence Award. Looking forward to seeing you as well, Kirsty. Paul also says, before conferences, my business felt isolated from the industry. Other accountants rarely talk to each other. And I think that's a great point. Are you back here, Johann? Is it working?
I'm back.
Yes, awesome. We're just bringing in the what people are talking about in the comment section. But yeah, Paul's got it absolutely spot on, isn't it? Like that you felt the same, didn't you? Especially when you first started. That's one of the things you got out of it was, I think the nicest thing is kind of learning that you're not the only one having the same problem, isn't it? I think that was a huge takeaway from conferences.
Definitely, yeah. That isolation that you get when you're running a business, especially when you've not got a big team or you've not got people around you constantly, is huge, and it's very psychological. So being able to go to conferences and go, hello again, hi Paul, how are you? Like, just shake hands and know each other's names. That's a huge, huge value add for me.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Maria's completely agreeing with what you, completely agreeing with what you said. It's so important to take your team members. You'll be more engaged employees. And it's amazing, isn't it? Like, I'll always go back to, again, you're stealing your thunder here, but when you took your youngster along, how much he was able to kind of just engage with. And it was also good for likes of me just to talk to them, like what problems are they facing at this point in time, you know, kind of see it from that point as well. So highly recommend it.
You know what? There's enough events that you can just, because everyone goes, oh, I can't take my whole team with me to these events. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, there's enough events. So, you know, at QuickBooks Connect, I'm taking Jade. At Accounting Web, I'm taking Accountex London, I'm taking Scott. Accountex North, I'm taking George. Like, we've split it up so that there's still loads of people in the office, or offices, but actually there's a couple of us that are going to be out at different events throughout the year, taking on different experiences and feeding back to the team.
Yeah. I mean, we've taken it probably one step further, haven't we, now? Because we're using it as a opportunity to get content and everything else. So, you know, we kind of need to have more than the one person there anyway, just to cover the event and get as much content as we can. But, you know, it is definitely worthwhile taking those people, because every person I've ever taken to has come back with some form of extra bit of knowledge, and they're not going to walk away with it without knowing something. So yeah, it is highly recommended. And like Marie said there, like it makes them more engaged. Like it's going to help them progress in their career and go forward. So yeah, very looking forward to this one. And I can't believe it's kicking off already. It just feels like we've only just finished last year's. And
yeah, but it's like the F1 season, isn't it? You know, that kicks off in a couple of weeks. That's very exciting. Drive to Survive Race to Survive next week and stuff. Like, yeah, the build up for F1's there, the build up for conference season's there. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that first conference in March at QuickBooks Connect, and then I just know once that domino's fallen, we're going to be there constantly, event for the rest of the year, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend for anyone who is thinking about doing it, though, get your hotels booked sooner rather than later, because yeah, unfortunately, they're one of the events that bump up the prices. So yeah, get yourself booked in sooner rather than later. Around what do you call it, Accountex especially, isn't it? Like that was gold dust to get a hotel around that area. So
yeah, definitely. I mean,
yeah, all I was going to say, the Lizzie line is open now. Elizabeth line's open now. So yeah, you can have a better chance than ever before of getting to and from the event. So yeah, you can have plenty of options.
Yeah, that's it. Like the events being in London makes it a lot easier because you've got the tube system to be able to get a hotel anywhere on that line, basically. So that does make life a lot easier. That is for sure. But yeah, so the next topic then, Aaron, leading on from conferences and the fact that we're going to be out the office quite a bit, and we get asked it fairly often, like, you know, how do you manage your business when you're out the office so much? Well, it's all about having the right gear with you, basically. You know, I don't think anyone will ever see me out and about at meetings and conferences without my trusted backpack. And that backpack runs my business, basically. Everything in there is what I need to run my business for 4 or 5 days without any hassle. And it's the same with yourself, Aaron, isn't it? Like you've got your go bag, you've got your grab bag, as it were, that you pick up and run out the door with to chase your train before you run late for that. So we thought, why not have quickly go through what we have in our bags and why. Now, there's going to be some stuff in our bags that the average accountant or bookkeeper won't have and won't need. But there's some stuff in there that, you know, it just makes the ability to be mobile in your office so much easier. So yeah, Aaron, do you want to kick us off with what your top bits of kit are in your bag of when you go to a conference?
Yeah, why not? I mean, first of all, I could do a bit of show and tell, to be honest. So I don't know if anyone follows this guy on YouTube. I'd be surprised if you've not at least heard of him, but there's a guy on there called Linus Tech Tips. Don't know if you've come across him. Yep. Anyway, when it comes to the bag itself, he's just released the ultimate, what I would say the ultimate bag that you could do. Yeah. Or you could get at this point in time. Now, I'm a bit of if I look around my room now, I've got probably 2 other bags that I use. And again, you've just kind of hit the nail on the head. It's a case of you have your grab one where you just go out there and you just need to get things done, or there may be a particular one. So if I've got like camera equipment and stuff, I've got a different bag that's much more suited to camera equipment, that sort of idea. But when it comes to the bag itself, what's normally in there, well, I can actually do a bit of show and tell on that as well, because if I just quickly share my screen and just take this little banner off here, if you saw on, I think, who was it? But was it Sam put it on, and Sam Minchin put it on about her mobile setup. I don't know if you saw that on LinkedIn, but I did jump in and just show what mine looks like. So this will give you an indication what's normally in my bags itself. Share screen, do that one, and entire screen, that one itself. So this is normally my little mobile battle system that I got going there. So just over here in this middle bit is my MacBook, my MacBook Air, my M2 MacBook Air. And we all need multiple screens, don't we? You know, there's no point in having that wonderful solution you got at home where you've got that multiple screens and getting used to it. Well, I make sure that I take that on the road with me. So with the beauty of the Apple ecosystem is that you can just connect any old iPad to it and it becomes a second screen. So straight away, I've got my iPad on the left-hand side as being my second main screen if I need to. And I've used a little bit of technology here called I forget what the thing. Oh, AstroPad it's called. So a little dongle that goes in here, and I can have a third second screen as well if I so wish to. And kind of the benefit of having that dongle there is you get a bit more latency and everything else. So if I was doing maybe training for QuickBooks or anything like that, then I could actually walk around with this, having that confidence it's always going to work and items like that. So that's kind of my mobile setup that goes through from there. And if I was ever going to leave the office, I always take at least these two here with me without any shadow of a doubt. They're always going to be on me at any point. And the beauty of these being so small means I can literally just throw them into any bag or anything else. I can literally get it to work at any time, and go from there. The other thing that I'll always make sure is with me though at any point in time is, and it fits beautifully into the bag in any bag, it's just a simple mouse. Like how useful it is to have a mouse. What I would say about this particular mouse as well is this is the Logitech MX Anywhere Free. But as long as you go for one of the mice that you can use on any surface, then that's going to be an absolute game changer. So for me, this particular one can connect anything from my iPad to my mouse or whatever it's going to be. But the fact it can work on any device out there is absolutely important. The other thing is I tend these days to bring a keyboard with me if I need to, if I'm going on a kind of long piece of work as well, because then you can get that comfort out of there. So that always throws in there. I have simple things in there like, glasses case and rubbish like that. But also what I highly recommend everyone to look into is a tech pouch as well. So in here, literally I've got everything that I could ever need if I'm going to be out and about. So I've got opportunities here to charge my equipment. So I've got chargers and everything else, dongles so I can connect multiple things to it as well, hard drives and everything that goes with it. And also one thing that I think everyone should have, if I can find it, is a USB flash drive sort of thing. So if you're at clients and stuff, you can grab data. But this particular one I've got, and it's in here somewhere, gives me the opportunity to do both USA and USB-C. So you just flip between the two. So yeah, that's I'll start with that. That's my kind of first part of it. I've got more that I will carry with me for other situations, but that's my go-to kind of everyday bag that, like you said, grab and go. As soon as you pick it up, you can have everything in there, minus probably the laptop itself. So I will just make sure I've got this bad boy with me, always in the bag, and off to go. What about you then, Johann? What's in your bag to start off with? Your grab and go.
Sorry, I'm dropping in and out like a yo-yo here. So yeah, look, but I managed to see everything that you've got, Aaron, and my setup for when I'm out and about is very, very similar. So I've got my iPad Mini, which is basically my notepad. That slides into my back pocket or into my jacket pocket really nicely. That's my grab and go notepad, as it were. I've got my MacBook Air M2, and I take my iPad Pro with me everywhere. So I've got my multiple screens and the flexibility. And sometimes there's websites that will only work on a Chrome browser on a laptop, unfortunately. So, not everything works on iPads or any other tablets for that matter. So they're my 3 core devices that I take everywhere. And then same as you, in my bag, I've always got a battery pack for my phone, like with a MagSafe thing. I use like an Anchor one that's basically gives me another day's worth of battery if I need it while I'm out and about, because what I tend to find is in a lot of these conferences, the room is very unfriendly towards mobile phone signals.
Yeah.
Which means your phone is constantly working hard to find a mobile phone signal. So even without you using your mobile, the battery starts draining. But also, we do a lot of filming and stuff like that. So that drains your battery quickly. So I always have a backup battery pack. I've got things like pens. It's always good to have a pen in your bag. I've got a microphone for when I'm speaking, so I can record what I've said. So if I want to go back and use any of that content, I can. I've got my gimbal, which is what has my phone sat on it if I'm doing any recording. But to be fair, if I wasn't doing any of that, if I was just going to run and needed to be able to access my emails and stuff, to be fair, most of the time I could do it off the back of my phone.
Yeah.
But when you're sat in between sessions or you're taking a moment out and you want to, deal with a question from your team or a client, the ability to do that through your iPad or your MacBook is so important. But when you're looking at kit like that, make sure you think about the weight, because this kit's going to be on your back all day, especially if you're not doing breakout sessions. If you're only going to network and speak to software providers, it's a long day on your feet, and you soon get a sore back if you've got a very heavy bag. Yeah. Now, I've got a Targus Intuit bag. Go that way, which I do like a good bag, and Intuit are very good at providing good backpacks. And these ones are provided to their employees. And I saw them and went, I want one, and someone kindly got me one. But it's fantastic for storage, for padding, it really supports your back when you're carrying it. So yeah, my top advice would be think weight when you're buying a new laptop if it's going to be going out and about with you. Think good quality bag, because it's going to spend a lot of time on your back or by your side. And think battery power. So I know my MacBook M2 Air will last 24 hours with no charge easily. I know my iPad Pro 12-inch will last 15 hours of use easily with no charge. I know my phone is my biggest liability because I use it so much and it's constantly looking for phone signal and stuff. So I've got a battery pack to back it up. So yeah, it's just about planning ahead, isn't it? And making sure you're ready. And again, with weight in mind. So I've got one power block which I plug in, and it can power and charge 3 devices from that one power block. So it's got 2 USB-C and a USB in there ready for me to run 3 devices off the back of it. So I'm not taking 3 charging plugs, which is really important for me, just to keep the weight down and the bulkiness down for me. So yeah. So what have we got coming in on the comments at the moment, Aaron?
Yeah, so Paul's just made a great point there about was planning to go lightweight for QuickBooks Connect. Just my phone and plenty of handbag space. But don't forget as well, you probably want to get yourself an Ask the Accountant swag bag. So yeah, you do. One day there'll be a store, one day. But yeah, no, you're right. I think you just saying there about keeping yourself lightweight is really important. The opportunity there. And that's why that bag there, I try and make sure is just only going to have the bare minimum in. I don't necessarily need a keyboard with me everywhere, but if I do need it, it's there. It's sat there waiting to go. But my only tip I would say about your battery on your phone, though, I can't grab it here, but we did in the end go for an actual dedicated recording phone, just because you're right, it just absolutely kills the battery on it. And then when it comes to trying to keep work away from your mobile phone, I've tried the best. I do now have a second work only phone. And I do feel that kind of having that mentality of having a second phone is sometimes useful. Problem is you hardly ever kind of stick to your own guns on this, do you? You'll end up just going back to your old phone. So I've tried to keep it separate and tried to go for a bit of a form-friendly factor when it comes to doing work. So this particular one's got multiple screens and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, I just end up using my phone more than anything else. You're a creature of habits, aren't you? That's the problem with it.
Yeah, I tried that whole having 2 phones thing, and my wife and my parents-in-law I'd sit down, and because when you sit down and you've got 2 phones in your pocket, you tend to take them out just to get them out of your pockets. And it's like, oh, drug dealers in town. And it's like, yeah. And then, yeah, the phones are banging against each other in the pocket and stuff like that. So it's just like, right, actually, I'm just going to take the one phone, just accept that I get calls on there that are personal, that are work. And if I'm going away, so when I go on holiday, I uninstall all the work-based apps if I want to shut off from the world, and I'll reinstall them when I get back. It's not really that much of a hassle. It's 10 minutes worth of effort to do it either side. So yeah, I've just kind of come to the acceptance now that if I've got my phone, I'm going to have a phone on me. And if I don't want to be disturbed by work, and I am one of those people that if I see that little icon saying you've got one message, even though I know it's a work-based app, So like if it's Timworks, which we use internally for our messaging and client messaging, if there's one notification on there, I will check it, because I start twitching if I know it's there and I've not checked it. Whereas if I can't see it, psychologically, I know there's probably a million messages there, but if I can't see it saying a million messages, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just uninstall any work-based apps when I take time out, basically. But yeah, and you can get these phones now that have got multiple SIM cards, and so like the iPhone can have a physical SIM and an eSIM, so you could run 2 numbers off it and turn off one number if you're not working and stuff. But again, it's about getting into habits and routines, and I'm not great for picking up new habits and routines. I always say to myself, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm going to make more notes when I'm on a phone call to a client during the call. I never do. I'm too engrossed in the conversation, and then I have to write the notes down afterwards and think back to what we discussed and stuff. With all the will in the world, some habits won't change.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, so yeah, no, that's how we can afford to take so much time out of the business, though, isn't it, Aaron? Is that we have the right gear to be able to run our business from anywhere. So like, like my iPad Pro, that's not got cellular technology in it. It can't connect to anything but Wi-Fi. But you know what? My mobile phone runs as a hotspot. It's very powerful. It's got the data, unlimited data, so that's great. My iPad Mini, that does have the ability to have mobile data in it, and I use it, and that's fantastic. But yeah, being able to just be out and about and flexible and set up office wherever you are, whether that's you're arriving to a conference early, so you're going to sit in Starbucks and go through your emails, or whether you're going to sit in Starbucks and go through a client's accounts ready for an accounting review later in the week. It's all doable, and you can get a good solid amount of work done while sat on a train. These days, whether you're using your mobile hotspot or the train's Wi-Fi, that's up to you. So yeah, I mean, the only thing I would suggest is get a good VPN provider if you're using public Wi-Fi. Like, if you're using your hotel's Wi-Fi and your train provider's Wi-Fi, get a VPN provider in there to just protect you and your client's data, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on the Apple ecosystem, it's built in these days, isn't it? Which is great.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. I think having that VPN's important. So my other bit of advice I'd have is on the go or grab and go is this little pack here. This has been essential for me. So this here is again, we're talking about having that another mobile phone there. And the idea here is that this is if I'm ever having to do a webinar or QuickBooks training or anything else. So in here, I've got an actual dedicated microphone. I've got the equipment to be able to connect the phone to it and to the connection and everything else. And literally from here, as long as I've got my MacBook on me or my iPad on me, I could do webinars, training sessions, whatever it's going to be out on the go. So you kind of learn these things, don't you? And having the opportunity just to be able to grab and go and do it. I've got a meeting literally straight after this podcast that I need to jump up into Chesterfield for. And I know then that literally as soon as I finish here, I've got to grab X, Y, Z. So I'm prepared for it just in case. And I think having those little setups ready to grab and go is really important because you never know what's going to happen or where you're going to be taken to these days, do you?
Yeah. And you never know what as you say, regardless of where you are, you need to be able to respond to your team or your clients' questions and stuff. And to do that, you need to be mobile. Like, it's all well and good. We're sat here. I've got 4 different monitors in front of me. I've got multiple lighting, webcams. I've got my stream decks, my keyboards, my mouse, etc. But actually, I could get away with having none of it. I could just run it all off my laptop, and that wouldn't be an issue from a day-to-day work point of view.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. And then,
so yeah,
one final bag that you may or may not see on the QuickBooks Connect is I have this huge, like, we're talking like proper briefcase type, not briefcase, whatever the next size up is going to be, and it's like literally it's absolutely huge. And for that's my mobile editing and mobile recording rig. So that's got multiple cameras in there, it's got all my microphones in there and everything else. So that isn't for everyone, but just to give you a glimpse of it, that there is all the microphones we'll be using for the podcast on what we got it on the 8th of March. We're doing our podcast for. So yeah, I've been spending the last couple of weeks kind of prepping that all ready to the podcast in actual live in person. So yeah.
So what we're actually saying, Aaron, is we're not taking in our team members to go and enjoy the conferences. We just need Sherpas to carry all our kit. That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They're all taking a piece of equipment each.
Yep. But going back to Paul's comment about going light-handed and coming back with space for swag, like when you go to these conferences, the amount of swag you're going to end up with is phenomenal. Like you're going to get water bottles, you're going to get scarves, you're going to get socks, you're going to get calculators, you're going to get notepads and pens galore, QuickBooks branded headphones. My wife did comment on there how hideous they look in the ear, so they might be display purposes only. But like the array of what you're going to get: t-shirts, hoodies. What are those things that I've just seen Sage handing out left, right, and centre? The blankets with the hoods. Snoods, is it?
Oh, is that what they've got down? Is it? Oh.
Yeah. Like, the amount of gear you can walk away with, mugs, water bottles, thermal mugs, etc., is phenomenal. So I do always try and pack my suitcase as light as possible, knowing that I'm going to fill it up and still walk away with tote bags full of gear as well. Yeah. I don't fly when I go to conferences because I'd have a hell of a job getting back with the luggage allowance. That's why I always get the train. Even though I tell everyone, it's for efficiency, I can get more work done on the train than you can on a plane. Nah, I just know what the luggage allowance is on a plane compared to on a train, and I'm better off on a train.
We've had some comments come through. So Kirsty's brought in that Sage. So it was a nudie. So we've got confirmation that it was a nudie.
There we go.
So thank you for that, Kirsty. And she really likes the idea of you having being called a drug dealer. So yeah, she's always had 2 phones, work phone number, but yes, emails it. So she's on my personal, as is a better phone, and that's the problem, isn't it? That's what we're saying. It's it's definitely down to. And just so everyone's aware, everyone who's brought, we've got a few QuickBooks related questions. So Tamerlane 12 is asking a particular question. And I mean, that might be the same Tamerlane actually, but coming on the YouTube as well. Bring them to QuickBooks Labs, our other podcast we do, which is very much QuickBooks focused. So yeah, we're going live on Wednesday. The first Wednesday of this month, probably not the best one because we've got QuickBooks Connect coming up, and we've got a lot of content around there. But the week after, bring those questions to there, and we will make sure we answer them then.
Definitely. Really looking forward to that QuickBooks Labs episode. That's going to be brilliant.
Our first one in person, isn't it? It's scary.
Yeah. But in person, just after QuickBooks Connect, so we've got all the live feedback and we can cover everything that we're now allowed to talk about. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I got you a special mic as well, just for knowing your brand loyalty and everything else. I'll keep it secret, but yeah, I have a special mic just for you. So yeah.
Is it one that needs a cable, but you've not put a cable in so no one can hear me?
360 degree opportunity.
Definitely needed. But yeah, cool. Well, I think that's about everything. I mean, if you're not planning to go to a conference this year, guys, have a look. Just Google it. There are so many that we can recommend. But yes, you've got your branded QuickBooks one, and I don't think there is a XeroCon one this year, actually, is there? Because they're kind of doing one a year in different locations, like different countries now.
Yeah. It might be like an interest as well. I'm joking.
But the generic ones like Accountex, they've got a big one in London. They've got one in Manchester later in the year. Accounting Web Live is a really good event.
Loved it.
Digital Accountancy Show, that's a fantastic event if you're trying to spot up and coming softwares that are new to the market. Like a lot of the softwares we now use were spotted a couple of years ago at the first Digital Accountancy Show. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to that one this year because I missed last year's one because I was away. But yeah, there's just so many and they're free. The only investment is your time travel, and if you're going to stay for the night, a hotel. And the value you get out of them is just phenomenal. You might not walk away tomorrow with the value realized, but within a couple of months, you'll go, oh, actually, I've got a solution for this problem that's just occurred today. And that solution is something I found at the show a few months ago. You just never know when it's going to come in handy. So yeah, completely recommend being able to go out and go to these conferences, run your business through a laptop for a few days. Make sure you've got enough power to run your devices and charge them, because that's always the rookie error. And yeah, just go and embrace it and learn from it, and you'll still get work done. You'll still be able to be responsive to your clients. All of these events have fantastic Wi-Fi on them and stuff. So, it's really important that you just go to these events if you can. Would be my overall message for today. What about yourself, Aaron?
Yeah, and also remember, you'll at least know 2 people there, because we're always
exactly
have a chat and explain. And most of the time, like, just talking to the likes of, especially Johann, Johan's always involved in kind of knowing what the latest news and tricks are going to be. So, just even going up to him and saying and asking, where does he recommend to go next, is going to have a good opinion of, oh, you need to go and see this. Like, last time we were at, what was it, Counting Web, was when HMRC was going through the whole MTD delay and everything else, and that was hot off the press and hot on the news. And we were opportunity then to talk to people there and then about it, and what do they think, and have they a kind of reaction for it. So yeah, very, very worthwhile going. And like Johann said, it's just your investment of time mostly is going to be your biggest cost that you're going to have to worry about, and it's very much worthwhile. And it gives you that chance as well to just turn yourself off from day-to-day problems that are happening in your practice, and gives you that opportunity to think about your practice as a whole. And that's huge. It doesn't matter how big or small your practice is, but having that opportunity just to reflect and walk away with it. I've never walked away from a practice or from a conference now without taking something away that I could then go to improve my practice in one way or another. So that's my endorsement for it.
Definitely. And yeah, it's important you take the time out after the conference to reflect. I've got normally a 4-hour train journey back. That's my time of reflection. I love that. If you've only got a 20-minute drive home, then maybe take some time out when you get home to go and focus on what you've already done. So yeah, it's a fantastic event, and there's loads of great events. So make sure you get along to at least one this year if you can. But yeah,
Paul does make a good point though. Cantex is huge, so yeah, you will struggle to find anyone. But no, it was great to see you there, Paul. And Charlie, I can guarantee Charlie was sat there talking to some vendor somewhere, talking the ear off of some vendor. So yeah, all you need to do is just go and try and find a vendor that's got a queue forming as Charlie's at the front of that queue. And you'll be easy to find Charlie. And yeah, looking forward to seeing Marie at Digital Accountancy Show.
Definitely. Aaron, what have you got going on this week?
Got a really important meeting today that could become quite important in the future of our practice. So I'll talk more about that next week if I can do. So I'm really excited for that. And then for me, it is I've just got to get on top of client work that, like you were saying, was pushed back to February. So we've got a real big push that we want to have a clean bill of health for the start of March, so that we can start looking at the future and start pushing forward and not having to be caught up in statutory deadlines and everything else. We want to get away from that. So yeah, that's our big push this month. So yeah, we're really kind of got that grit between our teeth to get them sorted. What about you, Johann? What's any videos due or anything like that?
No, this week I am client meetings Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday I'm going to be in Leeds talking at a QuickBooks event for the people in the north about how I used QuickBooks to grow my firm. And then Thursday night, I will be at the Yorkshire Accountancy Awards, where we are shortlisted for Brand of the Year for one of our accounting brands. So looking forward to see what happens there.
So you're suited and booted for that one, is it?
Suited, booted, got my QuickBooks green bow tie and my QuickBooks cufflinks. That if you've not seen my QuickBooks cufflinks, have a look on LinkedIn. They're there. They're looking very smart. I'm looking forward to that event at the end of this week. But yeah, I think that is everything from us. Look at that, 9:30 on the dot. So thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in, that's commented, that's interacted with us. Apologies for the tech problem. I think I'm going to go and turn the power off and turn it back on again, see if that fixes everything for the rest of the day for me. But
My IT team are now sacked because you can do more IT than they can.
That's it. Yeah, dismissed. But yeah, if you are listening back to this on the podcast, don't forget to try and join us 8:30 a.m. UK time on a Monday. We're here to answer any questions that come in and to discuss various topics in and around both the accounting and small business world. So thank you very much for joining us, and that's goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.